Re-Zero, Volume 7, Chapter 2b, Eve of the Decisive Battle. It was the following morning, 17 hours before the appointed hour for subjugating the white whale.
Now then, it's Lady Crucia's orders, so go ahead. Pick whichever ones you like.
Even if you put it like that. With a cool morning breeze blowing, Subaru was at the Crucial residence, utterly lost in front of a lineup of land dragons. Ferris, wearing a white uniform of the Knights of the Royal Guard instead of his usual feminine clothing, was having Subaru examine the land dragons. With a snow-white cape on top and a face full of zeal, Ferris's cheeks puffed up at Subaru's reply.
What? Lady Crucia went out of her way to be so kind, and you don't like them?
It's not like that. I'm really happy I can choose the land dragon I'll ride, but I don't have a clue how to figure out what's good or bad about each one. Do I look like a vet who's been handling them for decades?
Not even a little. So how about you pick based on intuition? Considering that it's who you'll trust with your life, and who you might end up dying beside, Fairy won't hold any choice against you, meow.
Stop that. Don't raise weird event flags like that. I'm not planning to die here. Even with 12 odd hours left before the decisive battle, Ferris didn't seem tense whatsoever. It was better than being oddly stressed out, but Subaru thought the mood was a little too slack. At that moment, numerous land dragons were lined up in the front yard of the crew's residence for the offensive against the white whale. Many land dragons were for hauling freight, but a dragon mount to take into actual combat was an especially crucial decision. He'd heard that the House of Karsten had a fine selection, including famous dragons from excellent bloodlines, but no matter how much I look, I can't really get past they seem really cool. Rem, what do you think? Just like many knights setting out for battle with their favorite horse, Subaru had been given the privilege of choosing his mount. But at that rate, such a prized right would simply go to waste. Rem, standing at Subaru's side while stroking the neck of the land dragon in front of her, responded to his prompt. I wonder, in my case, I can tell most land dragons which one of us is in charge, so I've had little reason to be concerned with the differences between individuals. That figures. You really know how to crack the whip. Huh. What should I do? The land dragon Rem was stroking sat on the ground, almost as if to display its submission. It probably did what came naturally after sensing it stood lower in the food chain. Subaru couldn't really pull off the same thing, nor did he want to.
If you spend too much time picking, we'll pay for it later, so pick quick.
You say it like this is none of your concern. Sheesh.
It actually isn't, but that's not the point. Seriously, they're all well bred, so you can't go wrong with any of these guys. Just pick on intuition.
Well, that does make a certain amount of sense, but... With Ferris urging him to hurry, Subaru walked around to examine the various land dragons when he suddenly stopped. Rem had been walking beside him until he froze, which earned him a suspicious expression. Subaru, is something wrong? Nah, this one just kinda caught my eye. As Subaru stood still, there was a beautiful, pitch-black land dragon before him. It had sharp facial features and yellow eyes. Resting atop the saddle on its back was a leather helmet for dragon riders. The variety of gear didn't differ from that of the other land dragons. What struck Subaru were its eyes. The land dragon's quiet gaze gave Subaru a different impression compared to its peers. There was not even the tiniest smidgen of the pride or fidelity that land dragons typically displayed. The pitch-black dragon simply sat there, calmly waiting to be selected. Hey, you're the land dragon I met at the mansion a while back, aren't you? Subaru, suddenly recognizing the individual dragon, reached out toward it. At his side, Rome was a little startled and was instantly tempted to pull back Subaru's hand. But faster than Rome could stop him, the land dragon nuzzled its nose against Subaru's hand. Looks like this one is number 1. I'm surprised. I believe this land dragon is from an especially proud breed. I was concerned it might eat your hand, Subaru. Okay, maybe I was a little careless just now. But he thought there was no need for such concern. Maybe he and the land dragon were on the same wavelength. Subaru decided he'd bet his life on the black land dragon that had nuzzled him with the tip of its nose. Ferris, I'm picking this one. It's love at first sight.
Yes, yes. Ooh, nice pick. Subaru, you really are quite shameless. Also, don't say love at first sight. You'll make Rem pout.
I'm not pouting. I will get along with it properly. I can do it. Subaru was a little concerned at how she added extra words for emphasis, but with Rem's permission, Subaru's choice of mount was decided. Ferris, who had few other things to take care of, remained behind, while Subaru and Rem headed back into the mansion side by side. There was little time remaining before they were due to set out. The Krish residents had been gathering manpower in bits and pieces, forming an expeditionary force with the goal of fighting the white whale. Even among them, there was something in the hall that especially drew Subaru's attention. What are they doing here? Subaru was beside himself, unwittingly staring right at them. A member of the group noticed his gaze and approached him with an audible patter. Guess you're part of the expeditionary force, too. Nice to meet you, bro. The voice Subaru heard had enough force to blow the crisp morning air away. The sound reached the far corners of the spacious mansion. Subaru could not help being struck by the forceful bellow. Subaru put his hands on his ears and grimaced heavily, glaring back at the other party. But, I heard all about you from the lady. You're the one who made today's whale hunt happen. Ain't that right? From here on, I'm part of that hunt too. Glad the weather's cooperating. You're too loud. Can't those round eyes of yours read my reaction? As a natural response to the booming words, Subaru ended up shouting too. His angry voice sent the dog-faced beast man into a laugh that was even more stupidly loud. His entire body was covered in brown fur, with an oblong, dark brown mane adorning his head like a Mayan hairstyle. However, he was almost 6.5 feet tall, and the sight of his extremely muscular body, clad in a leather outfit, felt a lot like a truce coming after wildness and culture coming to blows. Subaru's eyes lingered on the steel epaulet protecting his otherwise exposed upper body, and the Hoshin Company logo engraved upon it. That logo on a beastman from Kararagi. That means you're Anastasia's Iron Fangs. What? Your voice is too quiet, bro. I can't hear what you're saying. Oh, shut up for a second. What the hell did you eat to grow that big? What race are you? I'm a kobold, can't you tell? As if there could be a dog race besides kobolds. Kobold. Wait, there's no way! The beastman had called himself a kobold, but Subaru's image of kobold was a little person with a dog face. The dog face and the humanoid body were in line with what he expected, but the body size was way, way off. They call me Ricardo. Nice to meet you too, Missy. Yes, Master Ricardo. Thank you for the kind words. My name is Rem. Emotionally prepared for Ricardo's hearty greeting, Rem politely introduced herself in turn. When Subaru glanced, watching the exchange, he saw Anastasia with a grin coming over to the head of Ricardo's group, a band of beast people. When her mischievous smile met Subaru's sour look, she teasingly tilted her head. Oh no, Natsuki. It would seem Ricardo isn't very agreeable with your ears. The best way to get along with him is to not wander too close, you see. It would have been useful to know about that before meeting him. You really are rough on people. Sorry, I couldn't help wondering how you'd react, you see. Not just rough on people, a bad personality too. Ow! As Anastasia giggled teasingly, Ricardo's huge beastman hand gave Subaru's head a little push. He opened his big mouth wide to speak, which neatly displayed his fangs. Hey bro, watch your mouth when speaking with a lady. Be a little nicer to her employer, will ya? She almost never talks to anyone if it's not about profits and losses, so she has no friends.
At this point, you can probably get in good with her with a little kindness.
Ricardo, if you're gonna sweep something under the rug, best not to be insulting about it along the way, yes?
It's not an insult. I'm worried about you, miss. Ever since way back, you never got along with people too well. So coming here from Kararagi without anyone you know has got to have been wearing you down, right? But looky right here. Here you go. Friend number one.
Hey, don't butt in and babble when people are talking. And don't go grabbing a guy's head and shaking it around like that. That ridiculous strength of yours could tear my head off. Assailed by literally superhuman strength, Subaru decided to somehow shake his attacker off for his next snap first. In a hurry, he escaped from Ricardo and immediately began neck stretching exercises, rotating his head around. Man, that was close. Wouldn't be funny to get injured and sidelined during chit-chat right before the big battle. I'm pretty worked up for this, so there's no way I'm gonna accept that kind of foul-up.
What's with the fuss? I'm just telling you guys to get along.
Maybe different cultures have different definitions of getting along. Are all Kararagi people like this? Well, of course not. Ricardo's special. You see a vast difference in elegance and grace between him and me, don't you? Anastasia stood beside Ricardo and brazenly laid out her claim. Subaru deeply exhaled, pushing Rem forward as he countered. Now look, if you want to talk about real grace, talk about someone like Rem. See this elegance? Oh no, calling me cute like this. I'm blushing. A strange girl, but she seems nice and has excellent future prospects. You've got quite a catch there, Natsuki. Subaru almost wanted to say that it was more like they had caught each other, but Rem's reaction was already a little different from what Subaru expected, so it was hard for him to bring it up. Then, Krush emerged from below Subaru and the others at the head of a motley assembly. From the looks of things, you have finished getting to know one another. Krush was not in her usual handsome dress uniform, but rather a lightly suit of unornamented armor. The build clearly focused on ease of movement, perhaps prioritizing mobility was in itself a feminine choice. To Subaru's eyes, it seemed questionable how much protection it would be able to provide the wearer. It's better to wear gear that is easy to move in. Do not be overly concerned. An earth blacksmith engraved this with the durability blessing, so as long as my mana is not exhausted, it is far stouter than it appears. Krush explained, realizing the doubts behind Subaru's gaze, and she touched a hand to her breastplate. There's a thing like that? As usual, magic and blessings are basically cheating. Maybe I have a convenient blessing like that sleeping inside me, and I just don't know it yet. No matter how long a person sleeps, it is not as if anyone forgets how to breathe, yes? That is what blessings are like for those who possess them. If you are not aware of one, it is best to abandon the notion. Having experienced a similar put down once before, Subaru pouted and discarded his faint hope. Rem comforted Subaru as if she were consoling a sulking child. Meanwhile, Krush noticed Ricardo gazing down at her, so she peered up at his huge frame and spoke again. I see. I have heard the stories, but you are an even greater warrior than rumored. So you are the captain of the Iron Fangs, the blade who stands by Anastasia Hushin's side? In the end, we're just being paid to do a job. You're Krush Karsten, right? Besides the usual rumors, I've heard about you from the lady, but seeing you in the flesh is... With Krush folding her arms and looking up at him, Ricardo audibly sniffed, using his canine sense of smell. Then the folds of his nose crinkled, and his throat rumbled in laughter. Oh, what a piece of work! This rose election's gonna be pretty tough, miss. Well, that's why you have to sell favors like this. The price tag I can put on it depends on how hard you work, so you better work hard, Ricardo. That's our lady. Whether it's people or dogs, she works them to the bone. Anastasia seemed to agree with Ricardo's assessment of Krush. Maybe she and the stupidly laughing Ricardo had been working together for a long time, for Anastasia seemed just like a regular young girl when talking with him. She must have had a soft spot for him. Loud voice aside, Subaru didn't sense any problems dealing with Ricardo either. Maybe it was just his personality as a man, perhaps he should say as a dog. However, Subaru did feel like he was just a bit too outspoken. Did you rest well last night? Cruz shifted her gaze away from Ricardo to show Subaru some consideration. Subaru, still massaging the neck Ricardo had twisted a short while ago, as he responded. Yeah, thanks. It didn't seem like a good thing to be sleeping so easily, while the rest of you were busy, though. There's a time and place for everything. Your job was assembling myself, Russell Fellow, and Anastasia Hoshin last night, and accompanying the formation of White Whale Expeditionary Force. Indeed, from my perspective, your offering to assist in fighting the White Whale was unexpected. After a faint smile, Trish's lips became taut. She stared straight at Subaru. Seeing the complex emotions behind her amber eyes, Subaru wilted at what might be coming next. I'm grateful for assistance in fighting the White Whale, but can you fight? Not really. If you count me in, I'm like the cat's claws you borrow, because you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. A dog's claw can get pretty big, though. Hey, were you talking about me just now? I was, but you don't need to butt in. Man, you've got convenient hearing. Subaru yelled at Ricardo for interrupting the conversation. Crucia's eyes had gone wide when he openly declared that he was useless in combat. Subaru racked his brain over how to explain it to her. So as fighting goes, it'll be like that. But I think I'll help against the White Whale. Let's hear it then. What do you mean? I'm not all that happy about this, mind you, but it seems that I have a peculiar scent that attracts demon beasts. The odd nuance of Subaru's statement once again pressed Krush into silence. However, when Rem stated, "There's no mistake," in an odd agreement while standing beside him, Krush displayed only a brief hint of concern before asking him to continue. I shall tentatively state that I understand. Please give us the details. Maybe scent isn't quite the right word, but it's a physical condition I have. In fact, when we had that demon beast incident back at the mansion we mentioned last night, I used it to lure the demon beasts. Is that so? Then the fact that you possess a media to warn you of the danger of demon beasts is connected to this? That's some unexpected foreshadowing you. I'm just talking to myself. With suspicious gazes trained on Subaru, he shut his mouth before he said too much. Anyway, I think that characteristic of mine will probably work on the White Whale too. If I'm there, we can predict to a decent degree where the White Whale goes. But when we do, the Demon Beast's danger level is off the charts, so expecting me to actually fight it is a little much. An Uragarum was about as dangerous as a large dog. Even so, they had nearly killed him. Not that threats were proportional to body length, but the white whale was thousands of times larger than an Uragarum. By himself, Subaru couldn't outrun the white whale, let alone counterattack. That's why I'll take the land dragon you lent me and run around right under the white whale's nose to draw its attention. While it's doing that, you'll go after it full force. Or at least that's the tactic I'd recommend. To be blunt, it was a plan he wasn't sure he could speak from his own lips. He was saying they couldn't count on him for fighting strength, but that he'd be useful running around the battlefield as bait. It was a role that would make even those with a death wish turn pale. I do not sense any deceit from you, which surprises me greatly. Krush put a hand to her chin, barely able to believe her eyes as she let out a sigh of resignation. She'd no doubt weighed Subaru's statement with the blessing of wind reading, considering how the truth or falsity affected its effectiveness for the operation. Many times in the half-day since last night, I have wanted to doubt my own blessing. I do not claim it is infallible, but... You've lost a little confidence in it? No, I simply get tense when the world exceeds my expectations in various ways. As she said those words, a smile came over Krush that did not seem sore or bitter. It was the expression of a beautiful lioness, which she immediately hid under a gallant expression as she continued speaking. I heard from Ferris that you selected a fine land dragon, even by my house's standards. If that is the role you desire, I have no objections. However, I require that you obey my commands. Also, I guess it goes without saying with that outfit, but you're planning on fighting too, Krush? Do you think I can simply sit in a chair at my mansion and await good news? Krush flicked a finger off fitting on her armor, puffing out her chest as if the answer was obvious. Subaru, seeing her so valiant, politely lowered his head for having asked about something so self-evident. It seems everyone has assembled. Accepting Krush's apology, Krush closed one eye as she murmured. As if taking those words as a signal, people trod into the mansion's great hall one after another. All of them were clad in combat gear and possessed stern visages. Their various pieces of equipment seemed well worn, giving off the impression of seasoned veterans. But Subaru was struck more by their ages. Somehow, some of these members don't look so young. Subaru gave voice to what immediately came to mind. The people passing before Subaru's eyes were probably participating in the expeditionary force. In one line, there were 10 or so men with a rather high average age. It was probably that none of them were younger than 50. It was unlikely that anyone had heard Subaru's comment, but suddenly one of the men turned to look his way. Before he knew it, Subaru froze as the man stepped toward him. Lady Krush, we have arrived. Is this him? Yes, it is. The one posing the question to Krush was a sober voice, was a middle-aged man with both hair and beard graying. The man nodded to Krush and faced Subaru once more, stretching a hand to his shoulder. Then he spoke. Thank you, lad. Eh? Thanks to you, our dearest wish has been granted. We have never been happier. Subaru unwittingly lost his bearings as the hand grasping his shoulder conveyed the man's strong feelings. Thank you, said the man, patting a rocked Subaru on the shoulder before walking off. From behind, Rem watched the men leave as she whispered into Subaru's ear. All of them most likely have some connection to the white whale. Connection to the white whale. You mean related to the old expeditionary force or something? Though there were many who had already retired from fighting on the front lines, these are the warriors who answered Wilhelm's call to participate in the current expeditionary force. Their morale and level of training are no way inferior to any currently serving as a royal knight. So it's some old men who are dying for a chance at vengeance, huh? I'm getting all fired up. Subaru felt something stir within him as he glanced over, watching Krush examine the soldiers. It was Krush who had set her sights to even exterminating the white whale so that Wilhelm might realize his vengeance. The old men joining the battle must have felt the same gratitude toward her for giving them a chance to fulfill their greatest wish. It was probably partly the kindness of Krush that Varys had spoken of the previous night, and the will of His Highness who had so greatly influenced her way of life. You're not telling me that those guys are all the forces we've got for this fight, right? Those that arrived here are the principal members. The remainder should have already set out for the Great Flugel Tree to facilitate the force's deployment along the Liffus Highway. In other words, with the appointed hour impending, those assembled were the VIPs of the expeditionary force. The participation of the old veterans really imparted the feeling that the decisive battle was finally drawing near. As he might have expected, the tension in Subaru's heart rose, along with the feeling that it was a must-win battle. The time is right. I want both of you in the hall as well. Krush looked up at the time crystal above the entrance, speaking curtly. She was surely to address the troops before departure, a kind of motivational speech to boost morale. Just as Krush set out, Subaru saw Wilhelm and Ferris entering from the hall. Ferris was dressed in the same outfit Subaru had already seen him in when encountering him in the courtyard earlier, but Wilhelm was not. Gone was the black uniform. Instead, he wore a light, minimalist suit of armor, protecting only the most vital organs. On both sides of his hips, he wore a total of 6 slender swords, and he seemed almost too ready to fight. Oh, so you're here too, Russell. Maybe we can chat a bit? Following behind Wilhelm and Ferris was dark blonde-haired Russell. He looked like he had been working all night, but with the great battle before them, his eyes were overflowing with vitality. If you're making that face, then it's probably safe to say that you held up your end. How about you, Anastasia? Did you really think I'd come up short? Not really, but I just thought I'd ask. When it came to who seemed the most meticulous out of all the royal selection candidates, Anastasia was second to none. With preparations steadily completed and the appointed hour fast approaching, the hall was tense with fighting spirit. In moments, all would be set in motion toward the decisive battle. But before that, Subaru had one thing he had to do. Rem, standing beside him, tilted her head and glanced sidelong at Subaru as he called out to Anastasia just as she turned to head off as well. Anastasia, would you mind letting Russell join us for a little chit-chat? Heh. When Anastasia stopped and looked back, her face was all business. She was acutely sensitive to the fact that Subaru had something to offer. The girly attitude vanished from her eyes, replaced by the glint of a merchant flicking an abacus at her head. In that moment, the transformation was reassuring. Subaru headed for Russell, an impish Anastasia in tow. Noticing the pair's approach, life returned to Russell's tired face. Truly, merchants were a reliable bunch. I have something to discuss with you, as two merchants who are successful and possess a sharp eye for the future. You might laugh this off as counting my chickens before they hatch, but this is about after the whale's taken out. With that preamble, he proceeded to prepare the battlefield on the eve of the white whale's extermination. 400 years. The appointed hour came, and with those words she began to address the assembled troops. Her voice was grave, the atmosphere strained. Amid sharp sensations, akin to pain running up a spine being stretched, Crush stood perfectly straight, chest thrust forward, as all eyes rested upon her. Crush stood upon the floor with a treasure sword bearing the mark of the house of Karsten, the lion rampant, and rested her hands upon its hilt as she slowly surveyed the faces of all present and said, 4 centuries have passed since the Witch of Envy, the worst calamity in all of recorded history, threatened the world. During this time, the white whale born of the witch's hand has made the world its very own hunting ground, dominating and savaging those weaker than it. The Witch of Envy was the one who had apparently swallowed half the world in ages past. Her very name had been synonymous with fear for as long as anyone could remember. Having lost its master, the demon beast of mist danced to its own tune. From the great expedition launched 14 years prior on down, the monster had given rise to many casualties in every nation, swallowing one's very will to fight. The lives the white whale has taken are beyond measure. Perhaps it is better to say, the mist's vile nature itself ensures that we will never know the true number of casualties. Over the course of 400 years, the numbers of names on tombstones and the graves that do not even have names have only increased. Crush's words made some old men stare at the ground, gritting their teeth as they held back sobs. There were others whose chests contained fierce, inexhaustible emotion, quiet anger they had carried with them, waiting for chance to let it explode. Their regrets, their hatred piled up with every corpse, began to envelop the atmosphere of the hall in stagnant darkness. However, but today, That time is over. We shall bring it to an end. We shall slay the white whale. It will dispel so much sadness. Those who had never permitted themselves a moment shall finally be granted a proper chance to grieve. We shall end this pathetic demon beast, unceasingly obeying the command of its dead master. Subaru's chest was on fire. Without saying a word, everyone conveyed the same heat that was burning inside him. The old veterans were looking down, the warriors clenching their fists. The aged swordsman had closed his eyes, but now all of them stared at Krush, standing before them. Accepting their gazes, Krush thrust a hand out, speaking in a great voice. We march to the Liphis Highway, to the great flugel tree.
Yes!
The stomping on the ground, accompanying the roaring response, seemed to make the very earth quake. Subaru realized that the hot fighting spirit surging within him had made him shout as well. Among them all, Krush stood stronger and taller as she raised her drawn treasured sword to the heavens and made a proclamation. This night, by our hand, the white whale will fall. The Battle of the White Whale, the largest operation since Subaru had been summoned to that world, had commenced. Getting, I would say, a steady pace. Let's be honest, this wasn't a steady pace. Getting out. Just uploading these as I go now. I'm working on quite a few different things related to ReZero, actually. Working on some side stories and some other stuff as well. So don't think I'm doing nothing. In fact, I've just recorded this last section now, and I might move straight on to the beginning of Chapter 3. So we speak if this isn't too long. It could be shorter, but I could probably do some of it. Yeah, let's get that knocked out. Oh, I've got to do the beast children. Well, like if you do, subscribe if you will. Keep on keeping on. And I suppose I'll see you guys next time. Bye.